western parts of Marion County that we're watching closely. Let's go over and see if Ryan or Tawana have any additional information. Have there been any damage reports? I've had none out of my family.
Yeah, zero at this point, Kevin. The only report we had out of these storms is a 49-mile-per-hour gust in Hart County, and that's not even with the storms with the tornado warning. That's with these storms that you see behind me here. We're continuing to monitor the southern edge of these storms to see if they continue to show any signs of strengthening. And at this point, we're not seeing anything overly impressive with this, hence the lack of any warnings down here. So right now, this is kind of the single segment of storms that we're monitoring with the tornado warning that's moving a little closer to the Springfield area now. So again, if you're in Springfield, like we've been telling you here, you're not under a tornado warning yet, but you need to be on standby for one if it does continue to show signs of strengthening here. But so far, we've not had anything to show for it. We've been watching, of course, the reports coming in from the public on MPING. We've been watching the National Weather Service, and we're in constant communication with them. And right now, this is certainly two warnings, but nothing to show for them just yet. We have eyes on the ground in multiple areas, though, Kevin, so we should know pretty quickly if anything does indeed occur here.
Yeah, I'm going to just read you a text I'm getting from my brother who's on the road down there. He says, I just drove from Loretto to New Haven, turning on the Line Station Road. Pretty good thunderstorm, heavy rain, not much wind at all. The Weather Service being very cautious on this one, keeping this tornado warning going for some reason back across parts of Marion County. Not going to let our guard down because we do see some rotation. It's not tight enough to touch the ground at this point. By ground reports, there's nothing on the ground. There have been no reports of damage. I don't want you to take it too lightly, but I think we can all rest a little easier with eyes on the ground. We always say there's nothing better than the ground truth. We can have the most expensive radar on the planet, but nothing beats a set of eyes looking at the sky. And that's what we've got on this storm down, moving from Loretto all the way up toward New Haven. So as you make your way right over 52 and go to New Haven, that's the area that we've been watching. Again, there's just not a lot happening. It's heavy rain, not even a lot of wind coming out of this storm as reported to the south. So let me pan the radar. We'll keep watching it because we do our due diligence here and the warnings are going off and people are looking for the information. We're being transparent in the information that we know at this point, and that is, yes, the Weather Service has issued a tornado warning. No, we haven't confirmed it. It's radar indicated, which we have on the screen. You can see it's affecting 662 people. It's mainly in parts of western Marion County, southern parts of Washington County. This, at this point, continues to weaken. Now, we've seen some upticks at times. I'm going to the scope, and then I'm going to look at the velocity again. And I'll just broaden it across this entire range from Manton down to Loretto. There it is. And again, sure, we see a little pop of wind there, possibly some rotation. Looks very weak at this point. It's sort of broadened out. It's diffused. It's not even what we would look at as a couplet to see the warning. So with that said, we'll just have to wait for the National Weather Service to decide whether they're going to let this go another, 12 minutes, or if they're going to cancel it. So let's see what happens with that. But for now, the warning is there. That warning goes until 2:15. When we go back to our home view, let me just point out that we do have thunderstorms that are also severe that likely have some gusty winds on either side of that tornado warning. We have storms that stretch all the way up to Cincinnati and all the way back down approaching Bowling Green. Many of them are not severe. They all contain lightning and heavy rain. They are pushing through, and for all intents and purposes, it is along and south of the parkways, and it will be out of here within the next hour, hour and a half. So all of this is moving off to the south and east. That will be pushing out of the area. That'll take any threat of severe weather with it. And in fact, the threat of severe weather is fairly low, even though we have warnings that are going on. The threat of severe weather, again, for Louisville, anywhere to our north, is non-existent. We're just not going to have any. Most of us will dry it out for the remainder of the day. All right, back to that storm. Let's just zoom in one more time. I know we've got Wave Country coming up, standing by, and we'll get you to that in a matter of minutes. Let's just zoom back in. I want to go through these warnings that we have. You see both the severe thunderstorm and the tornado warnings. So we do have severe thunderstorm warnings now past Bardstown. Let me move this so we can see some of the cities. I'll just grab it and pan it over. Bear with me as we move the radar. So Willisburg, yes, you're going to see some gusty winds, heavy rain. Springfield, some of the heaviest rains just now moving in. Lebanon be on standby, heavy rain. New Market, Raywick, all seeing heavy rain and approaching thunderstorms with lightning and gusty winds. At this point, no tornado damage has been reported. We've been on the phone with family down there a number of times already, and I just go back to look at the scope again. This is really what tells the story in terms of how much rotation we have, and I'm going to scan all of this area. So again, I'm looking outside of the warning. We go into the warning. We go down toward Marion County. There's Manton, Loretto. That's where it would be if it were going to happen, close to Manton, Loretto. We see some gusty winds that just passed Raywick. Happens to be where my best friend lives. And we've got other wind that's going to be preceding that line, moving over toward Lebanon. Gravel switch. All right, let's go to Ryan Hoke. Ryan, any kind of damage reports? I think the answer is no, because I've got family and friends all in that area.
Yeah, the answer is no. We've even been looking at power outage numbers too, because a few minutes after these storms go through a particular location, if they are severe, you would typically see power outages spike, right? Well, as we load the current data in, you'll notice that only Grayson County is lit up, and that's only 167 customers without power there right now. And you'll note the other counties where this has gone through, like Southern Hardin, only 43 customers. LaRue, 0 customers without power right now. That's a good thing. Not seeing those numbers light up in any meaningful way definitely tells us that there's just not a whole lot of wind energy here. The 49-mile-per-hour gust we had in Hart County is the only wind gust report that we have received so far.
And they just canceled it.
And they just canceled the warning there. So no surprise there given the radar scans, Kevin.
Yeah, and it'll take it a minute because our computers won't allow it to fall off until it actually ends. But the Weather Service telling us, all right, we've just gone ahead and expired that warning, and as should be. I mean, there's just nothing happening with it at this point. Now, it doesn't mean as it continues to move into untapped air, very warm, very juicy, that we would not see, again, a extension or another tornado warning issued. But at this point, that tornado warning has been allowed to expire, all right? It ended early because likely of the reports that we've been receiving from family and friends in the path of that storm. I'm going to zoom into it one more time, and we'll wrap up our coverage here, but obviously we're standing by. We've got our team here ready to respond as needed with any severe weather. We knew that this was a possibility today, especially along and south of the parkways. Bardstown's out of the woods. Loretto just about out of the woods. Lebanon, you're next in line. New Market next in line. Gravel switch, Bradfordville. You've got 10, 15 minutes to prepare. Springfield, it's moving in on you now. Again, that's a severe thunderstorm warning. That means winds 60 miles an hour possible. It's going to happen in only pockets, not everywhere along that line, but that's something we'll be watching as this moves through. All right, one final sort of look into the storm, and I'm just going to, for my sake, look at the velocity one more time so we can feel comfortable getting you back. And as I do that, we're just going to scan the far eastern part of this warning. There it is. Yeah, and it's outside of a little bit of wind approaching St. Mary's. We've got some wind that's approaching Springfield, pushing through. Heavy rain there. Wind will eventually approach Lebanon. You could see 40, 50 mile-an-hour winds there as this storm moves through. But all in all, the tornado warning has been allowed to expire. On the big board, you can see technically it had 7 minutes. Weather Service said let it go. We have the severe thunderstorm warning for parts of LaRue, Marion, Nelson, Washington for another 22 minutes. Let's go back around with Ryan and Tawana, get their latest reports, and then we'll get you back to programming here on Wave.
Yeah, at this point, Kevin, we're going to continue to monitor these storms, but what we have not seen today are reports of anything meaningful coming out of them. We've been mentioning a good chunk of the afternoon here how there's untapped air. There's very warm, moist air. Campbellsville, Greensburg, Columbia, folks in Lebanon, just south and east of Springfield as well. You guys need to continue to keep an eye on things. The Wave Weather app is a great resource for that, and if you are issued any warnings for your location, we'll be back on the air as necessary here, but we are just not getting the ground truth on this. And for this to be moving into an area like that, and we're not seeing just the uptick in storm activity that you would typically see with this, means that there's something missing ingredient-wise in the atmosphere for today. And that's some good news. We want to get out of this without any damage, and hopefully that'll be the case, Kev.
All right. And Tawana, you're good on social. Anything else on your end?
On my end, yes, everything is a-okay. We haven't seen any reports of anything happening in the area, so that is certainly some good news. A lot of people just really concerned about that tornado warning, and it looks like that's been expired. So I think otherwise than that, just some strong wind gusts with some of those storms, and then that's about it.
All right, just got a text from my best friend who lives down in Raywick, that's just south of Loretto. No problem, says raining lightly there, and they have a little lightning. Outside of that, no problems there. So that's what we have going on. Let me zoom back to our home view so I can put everybody at rest here. The tornado warning has expired, even though it's still on the screen. It's going to stay drawn there until it falls off at another 6 minutes. Regardless, a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings to the south. The line of thunderstorms with lightning moving through. We'll be carefully watching our southern counties. We still have Greene, Taylor, parts of Marion, and Adair counties that could still see some severe weather this afternoon. Outside of that, everybody else is in the clear. We're going to say goodbye for now, but we'll jump in as needed right here on Wave. I'm Kevin Harned for all of us on the Wave Storm Tracking team. Thanks for watching.
We haven't seen the surge come through our doors yet.
Dr. Robert Trenchel, president and CEO of Yuma Regional Medical Center, says even if there had been a surge, they wouldn't be ready for it because they're still dealing with the previous increase in migrants seeking hospital care.
The winter months are a particular strain because that's when all our winter visitors are here as well. So you combine that with the migrant surge, and it was not a sustainable model to not have a payer source.
The hospital estimates it has treated about 300,000 migrants from December 2021 up to last November, but weren't able to bill them, resulting in more than $25 million in medical debt.
We had the increased cost of agency staff to bring in to deal with the increased volumes, and there's no payer source to help offset that cost.
Dr. Trenchel says now the hospital recently qualified to get reimbursement for a portion of that care it provided.
It'll cover some emergent care and pregnancies, the bulk of what comes in our doors. But to get some relief is helpful.
He says people who already live in Yuma are now feeling the effect.
4,000 migrants just in the last week alone. Now the city looking at schools with standalone gyms to house those asylum seekers, but it's a decision that's sparking protests from parents. The majority of parents say it's not the fact that they're asylum seekers, they're more concerned that they're adult strangers.
We as parents, we stood up, we said, we'll be.
Building on our rich history in the community, celebrating the people and events that make this the great place we call home. Wave presents Wave Country with Don G.
Big thank you, Wave Country. Thank you for joining us here for Wave Country. First, let me thank our Wave 3 storm team. They told us today was going to be an alert day, and it's just been raining all day, and then that bad weather moving in. So they are always on standby. They're here to make sure that we're safe. So if anything comes, they will let us know, and they will be back on air. So some of our time taken, but that's okay. It's important. 2:13 now. We're starting the show. Cindy Sullivan is here. We're going to try to get some of your questions in as quick as we can. We've got some other guests, though, that we invited in before we knew that weather was going to move in. But you can go ahead and call 502-571-5263. Cindy will get to as many questions as she can today. We also have Kentuckiana Crime Stoppers. They're going to be with us today, and we thank them. We're also going to chef it up. Chef Casey Mater is here to chef it up, and Cindy's going to be cooking with him because it is barbecue month.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
barbecue month.
And what goes better with barbecue than beer?
Well, ask my dad, and he'll tell you what goes better with beer. If you cook a beer first, then you pick what food you want.
What goes best?
What beer
goes
The
best?
beer
I want
comes
your
first.
answer.
The beer first.
You ask him that
I
too.
know your dad.
You know my dad. That's right. So it's barbecue month.
Yeah. So we're gonna make some barbecue, or some beer barbecue with garage beer, and you can find a garage beer at Kroger or your local convenience store. We're gonna use the classic light. They also have a lime flavored beer.
Lime.
But with a light beer and a barbecue sauce, it kind of gives you the aftertones once you get the aftertaste of beer. So it won't be a really
Okay.
punched beer in your face. It'll be once you swallow it, you'll taste the beer a little
Yeah,
bit.
because if you punch a beer in my face, I'm leaving.
Oh,
I
no,
am
no.
leaving. Not Cindy though. Cindy's gonna stay all day. She likes the beer. She like. Okay, so you got a little reduction going
Yep, so I'm
here.
working on a little reduction. So I made a brown butter and caramelized some onions with some thyme and some roasted garlic, and then added my beer in and reduced it by half. So at this point, we can start making our barbecue sauce.
You're
and
making
everything.
your own barbecue sauce.
Making our own barbecue from scratch. It's everybody thinks it's kind of
Because it sounds hard.
Yeah, it's not though.
No.
It's a flavored ketchup. you know?
Yeah.
So we're gonna add a 14-ounce bottle of ketchup.
Flavored ketchup.
Yeah, basically.
That makes it sound doable, Cindy. Like I can flavor ketchup. I got that.
Yeah, it's easy. So we'll add our ketchup in there and about 2 tablespoons of apple
Just
cider
to cut
vinegar.
some of that sweetness.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I like it. I like a
Okay,
little
Chef,
vinegar.
I hate to cut you off here. This
Sure.
is just what it is. It's an alert day. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Harnett.
Around. We'll get back to you in just a second, Dawn. Eastern parts of Marion County, let's just zoom into this. We were watching it and talking about how it was all fading and there was not a whole lot of rotation, and we had people down there watching it. You can see a little bit of a notch in the storm trying to develop there. So let's look at the velocity on that. I've zoomed way in. This is only for now eastern parts of Marion County. Let me move just so we can see some of the more populated areas. There's Lebanon. So now let me go back into the velocity on this. And while they let the warning expire early, right at its original expiration time, we've got a new warning that's come out, and this is for parts of Boyle County. It also includes the far eastern parts of Marion County. So let's again just take a closer view. This is the area of concern. Strong winds approaching the Lebanon area. We look down again. That's the area that's sort of ticked up in intensity, but the rotation is still on the broader side. So that's the zone that we're watching. That is the velocity that's moving. That is where we have the tornado warning. If you're in Lebanon, strong winds moving in, lowest level, away from windows. We'll move this right across the county border eventually as it passes by eastern parts of Marion County, going through Pennock and Gravel Switch just north of Bradfordsville. Obviously, the most populated town in all of Marion County is Lebanon, and that's where we have the strongest winds pushing through with heavy rain now. So again, sirens may be resounding there. That's because a new tornado warning was issued for eastern parts of Marion County, moving over into parts of Boyle County. Again, a pretty good blast of wind moving through right past the Lebanon area and now just off to the south of that. Ryan, I see you're watching that as well.
Yeah, it's a 36 mile per hour shear on this right now, so we're continuing to watch this thing kind of tighten up a bit. This is perhaps the most impressive amount of rotation that we've seen in any of these storms today. So if anything merited a warning, I guess it was going to be this, it looks like here. So that's going right along 68. And man, we just got a new scan in there. That's a pretty powerful wind. It is now starting to actually take advantage of that warm, moist air, and we're really starting to see more of that wind sort of punch down from these storms here. Still no reports of anything yet, but this is happening in real time. So 66 mile per hour wind sampled by radar just south and east of Lebanon, Kevin.
Yeah, and Ryan, I'll just ask you to make a call down there to some of the emergency management. We'll jump back on with you because now it is tightening up where we can actually see what could be decent wind at least, if not some rotation. So I'm going to zoom into that part. This is right along 68. If you're familiar with that area down in Marion County, you're just to the east of the Lebanon area. This is the greatest potential for wind. We go back into that with our scope. So let's just take a look at the radar scope and the velocity we go. And just bear with me. I know we're sort of zoomed in, but I want to give you where we have the greatest potential for some of that wind and rotation. It's right there. So it's just past Lebanon off to the southeast side. Strong winds, possible rotation there would be right along 68. This is 68. So this takes you right into Lebanon, all right? If you're on the east side of Lebanon, that's where you have to be most concerned. This is tightening up. That is the, I don't want to use the word best, but that is the greatest confidence that we've seen on the radar from the signature all day. So if there was a warning to be issued, this would probably be a decent scan of the radar to do so on. And it's right there. and you can see it moving right east of Lebanon. The bulk of the city is in the clear at this point. We're making calls to see if there's been any damage. Even with just the forward motion of the wind, we could see some damage out of this storm. All right, so that's what's happening down across Marion County. That is the tornado warning. It is the lone tornado warning that we have. That storm is moving off to the east at 35 miles an hour, and the warning will go until, and that's 2:45. All right, so for Marion County, it'll be out of there before that time because it extends across the county line. New update on the radar, you see it. So let's just track it. I'm going to pan the radar over. I know I'm zoomed in very tight, so for folks in Marion County, you'll be familiar with where we are. Other folks are going to be like, where are we? This is Marion County, Kentucky. I have to say that because we have Marion County, Indiana, and Indianapolis. No, we're not worried about them. This is Pennock. This is 68. This takes you right over into parts of Boyle County. You'll notice the warning continues all across, all the way over toward Gravel Switch. Hasn't arrived in your area yet over toward Gravel Switch, but it will. The storm is moving in. I may be zoomed in just a little bit too tight, so let me zoom back out and then we'll go back in. Just to get our bearings, here's the home view. All of the action south of Louisville. Nothing here. Finally clearing out. Thunderstorms with a lot of lightning and wind to our south. A few severe thunderstorm warnings. In fact, when we look of where to go, if you're in eastern Marion County, you've got to get to the lowest level. That's inside. Maybe it's a bathroom, maybe it's a hallway, could be under a stairway. You just want to be sure you get to the lowest level. Skies are much darker to the south than they are here. That's our SkyTrack camera in E-Town. Marion County is our only county under a tornado warning, and that is for another 24 minutes. So that's what we're watching down to our south in Marion County. This is a tornado warning. We have a severe thunderstorm watch in place. That means weather is possible in terms of severe weather. We noted that that was issued this afternoon. We waited a little while, and boom, the warnings started to fire to our south. And that means it's happening. You have to take immediate action when we have warnings. There are a few power outages, most of those centered down in parts of Grayson County, where we've seen about 4% of our customers. That's 702 of you without power. Otherwise, notice how warm and unstable the atmosphere is to the south. Somerset, Danville, 81, 82, Lebanon, 66. That's that strong storm moving in, feeding off of not only those warmer temperatures, but the moisture in the air. Dew points down that way are in the 70-degree category. And again, you can see the only warning that we have to the south. I'm going to zoom back into it while I'm looking at that. Ryan just hung up the phone. Let's go over to him and see if anybody was able to speak to him.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm off the phone with both the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department there in Lebanon. They have 0 reports of damage. I just looked at the Kentucky Mesonet, a real-time wind gust. They've had a 41-mile-per-hour maximum wind gust right there near Lebanon. This is right where that pocket of extreme wind was moving through. So far, no reports of damage and no reports of severe level wind gusts just yet. And this is real ground truth. The folks at the Fire Department monitoring all the radios, no calls into them just yet.
All right, good news there. We appreciate that. We just continue to scan the skies with the radar. This is the best we can do outside of reaching people that are in the path of the storm saying, hey, what is happening? And we've been doing that all day. I've even put my family and friends to work down there because obviously that's where I'm from, Southern Nelson, Marion County. I've got family all along the track of this baby, and there's been no reports of damage. In fact, it's been less than what some storms are when they're calling me saying, hey, what's going on down here? All right, so let's just go back into it because we just have to keep scanning. This is one of those things. This is how weather works. It changes by the second, not just the minute. I mean, 2 minutes goes by, which is when we're on our fastest scan of the radar. It's about 2.5 minutes. It's what it takes to get a scan in. Sometimes a tornado can touch down and lift back up in that amount of time. So we really have to watch. We've seen that even in Louisville this year, where we've had a number of reports. Very strong winds still being picked up on the radar, moving east of Lebanon, north of Bradfordsville toward Gravel Switch. So bounded by, well, between the two. This is going to be that heavy punch of wind that Ryan mentioned, where we at least have measured 40+ mile-an-hour winds at the surface. Keep in mind that the radar situated in Fort Knox, as it goes out in distance, it goes up in height because, believe it or not, the Earth is curved. So as we go out in distance, we go up in height. So we're shooting a little high here, but it's as low as we can get. Otherwise, we drive the beam into the ground. So this is what we're seeing. and it's showing some very strong winds. Should we tap into those, which we do in thunderstorms because we get strong updrafts and downdrafts, we can bring these strong winds down to the surface, and then you wind up with either straight line winds, microburst, or if there's enough shear in the atmosphere, tornado. And we do have shear in the atmosphere today, and we've seen on the radar indicators that would show some of that rotation, hence the tornado warning as opposed to just another severe thunderstorm warning. So this is the pocket of wind we're watching. I just went through all that because I felt like you needed to understand what we were looking at. The sort of delineation would be 68. It's U.S. Highway 68. It goes right into Lebanon, right over to Gravel Switch up to Perryville. This, again, is a blast of wind that will move through 40, 50 miles per hour. Tawana Andrews still here. She's been monitoring a lot of the social media that we get, and we always appreciate your reports, whether you submit those on the Wave Weather app, whether you're jumping onto our Twitter, Facebook. We're live everywhere all the time when there's severe weather. Anybody chiming in with any kind of damage from today, Tawana?
So far, not yet. I've gotten a couple of pictures from the LaRue County, Hardin County area with the storms that we saw earlier. Those moved through. Thankfully, no reports of any damage. Did have one viewer, so if you're still up and you're watching us, who reported some crazy winds, as she called it, in portions of Lebanon, and hasn't gotten a response just yet. So waiting to get a little bit more information, but so far no damage being reported. So that's certainly some good news. But this strong wind gust certainly knocks some things over still. So that's something to be careful with as these storms roll.
Yeah, it's not surprising that we're getting folks saying these are crazy winds because we've had the 41 mile per hour gusts, but we just haven't had evidence of damage or severe level winds. That's 58 miles per hour or greater just yet with these storms as they traipse on through eastern parts of Marion County, Kevin.
Yeah, but however, the radar is showing the strongest winds we've seen all day, at least from the radar view, which I was explaining sort of that we're shooting into the up a bit than if it were a closer storm to us. But nonetheless, we can see those winds on the radar. It's just a matter of are they reaching the ground? And at this point, there's no ground truth in that. However, it's always best to be safe than sorry, and that just means some of them could reach the ground. And that's why sometimes you get the warnings that are radar indicated, and that's what we've had here. Again, we've talked about the tornado safe place. I won't go back through that. Let me just zoom in as we recenter the storm, noting that all of southern, some people are like, my gosh, what's going on today? They've been on all afternoon now for an hour or more, and are we going to have severe weather? The answer is only a small part of the viewing area even has the chance, and that's areas to our south, parts of Marion, Greene, Taylor, Adair, those folks, and it's almost out of there. So really it's going to leave Adair and where we have the warning now, which would be far eastern Marion County, they're the only ones that even have the chance to see severe weather in our viewing area at this point. Now, will they see severe weather across eastern Kentucky this afternoon? Probably, but we won't be on the air worried about that. Let's just zoom in as we go back to the zoom tool, and I'm just going to focus in. Lots of lightning with this cluster of storms too. You can see it. So I mean, if you had to be outside, yeah, so take some. Let the storm pass. Let it take the lightning with it, because that's quite a concentration of lightning bolts blasting down. A lot of cloud to ground lightning with that storm. Zoom back in, centered it up. That looks good. The storm moving. There's the county line. So eventually it'll be moving over into parts of Boyle County. You find Perryville, Harrodsburg to the north, Jacktown, Beach Bottom, Hudsonville, all of that. There's Danville, so you see where the storm is going. Once it escapes Marion County, we'll be able to get back over to Dawn, who's cooking in the kitchen. We can smell it in here. Let's go back to our radar scope, velocity scope, and we will zoom in just to see that pocket of wind again. There it is. So it hadn't gone anywhere. I was going to leave this up until the scan comes back around, because that's the pocket of heavy wind. It's where it's likely about here by now. We'll see that with the next scan. Takes a while for the radar to get enough scans to get that data that it needs to really get a clear indication of what the atmosphere is doing. But strong winds, regardless, tornado or not, may not show the greatest rotation. However, we do see that pocket of wind right along just south of 68, moving toward Bradfordsville and Gravel Switch, and really the strongest in between. Ryan?
Yeah, at this time, The exact wind speeds on the radar, we're up to about 70 miles per hour just north of Bradfordsville. So again, this may not be making it to ground level, but we kind of have to assume that it is, because that is the potential that we could see with that 69, 70 mile per hour radar detected wind. I will say the radar is pretty far away from where these storms are, so that would be higher up in this thunderstorm where we've got that wind speed at this point, probably several thousand feet up, but it is something to monitor, Kevin. Still no reports of damage in Marion County just yet. We're monitoring all our feeds.
Yeah, and that's some good news I'm seeing. They just issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Madison County, so that's just outside of our area. Again, as we looked at what was happening, a lot of severe weather is possible to our east, parts of eastern central Kentucky, across the Bluegrass region. For us, this will be about the last gasp that we have, and this area of wind is moving across eastern parts, and there's the update right on the county line. The strongest winds we've seen all day on radar. You start to get those orange colors in there, kind of peachy colors, very strong winds. We're in this category here, so you can see that. Again, the reds and the greens indicating radar toward the radar. So we don't have a ton of rotation showing up in this, but we do have a very large pocket of wind, and that is likely going to do some damage. Once we start to reach into that zone, as long as they're reaching the ground, we'd start to see some damage out of that, all right? The thing is it reaching the ground? And we've had no confirmed reports of that. We did measure over 40-mile-an-hour winds from the Mesonet station in Marion County, and as we continue to see this pass by the county line, eventually we'll be able to hand that warning off to the Lexington market, and those folks in Marion County will be safe. Loretta, Raywick, over toward Lebanon, all in the clear at this point. New Market, it's past you. You've still got some rain, you've still got some lightning to deal with, but this blast of heavy wind and any potential of rotation is now moving south of 68, just south of Gravel Switch, just off to the north and east of Bradfordsville at this point. So back to our home view. I'm going to take the radar, the scope down. I'm going to zoom out, and then I'm going to take the lightning off just so we can get a better glimpse of the radar. And as we do that, and let me just go back to the radar, boom, and then the lightning will go away. You can see that is the only tornado warning, though they've just issued a new tornado warning to continue that storm as it moves off to the east. So let's zoom back into that. This is going to be outside of our area, so once our tornado warning ends, we'll be able to transition to that new warning, which is outside of our viewing area. So again, you can see the polygon flashing. That's the newest tornado warning. That includes the Danville area. We're just south of Danville, so it includes a good chunk of Danville, by the way. Hudsonville along 127. That's the new tornado warning coming out for that storm we're watching. We'll cover it up temporarily as we go back to our velocities here. And I'm just going to put on the velocity. This will take the whole image away. That's what we're watching, and you can see it clearly. That's just a pocket of heavy wind, some rotation in there, but that is the potential. If there was going to be a tornado anywhere, that's where it would be. This is very heavy wind, the possible rotation just south of Gravel Switch, moving over into parts of Boyle County. It's going to stay just south of Danville. Nonetheless, that is where it will go. So it appears as though that tornado warning for Marion County is expiring. I see Ryan is on the phone. Tawana, have you had any reports before we go back over to Dawn G?
So from that particular area in Lebanon County, Lebanon itself, one viewer, Ashley, thank you for sending this in, said that there was plenty of heavy rain, a lot of lightning as the storm moved through, but not seeing any damage near Glasscock Elementary or near Marion County High School either. So that's certainly some good news there. No major reports of damage there so far. So that is some good news as those storms continue to track up to the east. What have you heard?
Yeah, and I just talked to Chris at the Lebanon Fire Department down there, and he said nothing on their radios yet, no damage reported into emergency management or the fire department just yet. So we'll continue to monitor this. About 55 customers without power, by the way, in Marion County right now. So we're starting to see those numbers pop a bit, but even 40-mile-per-hour gusts can do something like that.
All right, let's just give one more look at the radar, and then Dawn is ready to go over in the kitchen again. So let me zoom back in, and I'll Again, I did this a while ago and we were right back on the air, but this will be the last guess for Marion County because there's nothing behind it, all right? So the tornado warning has expired or moved off to the east from Marion County. You can see the thunderstorms to the south. These are the ones we'll be watching. Said we'd be here. We're not going anywhere. So we've got really the only county in our viewing area to watch is Adair County. The rest of us are in the clear. Obviously, you see additional severe thunderstorms off to the south, close to Somerset. Some of these individual storms are strong, and those will continue to increase in intensity this afternoon. But for the rest of us, the system is passing us by. We're drying out finally after a very wet morning. Those thunderstorms continue to move to our south. Everybody's free of both severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings in our viewing area at this point. We still have a few folks under that severe thunderstorm watch off to our south. We're here to keep an eye on it. In the meantime, with no warnings, let's get you back to Dawn G in Wave Country.
All right, Kevin, we appreciate you and your team watching out for everyone. And everybody just realize it may not be near your area, but we're taking care of everyone and keeping everybody safe. Again, Chef Casey Mader here, Chef It Up. It is barbecue month. We were right in the middle of making that sauce. I forget where we are. We put the ketchup in it. We put the vinegar in it.
4 tablespoons of honey, and then my spice mix. So there was 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons of garlic and smoked paprika, 1 teaspoon of cumin, onion powder, a pinch of cayenne, and
And I will tell you, it smelled delicious.
1/4 cup of brown sugar.
It tastes delicious.
And you can use that as a rub too for your meat. You can use the beer as a marinade.
And don't be chicken. Just get in there and do it. And so once you do all of that, you've got what, a little emulsifier,
So we got a little stick blender, emulsion blender, and you just want to blend that up. So we get all your diced onions and the roasted garlic in there all blended into the sauce.
So you do that.
Yep.
And then you take your meatballs and then are your meatballs already cooked?
So the meatballs, I grilled the meatballs.
You grilled them?
Inside the meatballs, it's 1 pound of ground beef, 3/4 cups of Parmesan cheese, 1/4 cup of diced roasted red peppers.
I knew the texture of the meatballs was different. It's because of the
breadcrumbs.
Oh, it's because of that.
Breadcrumbs in there,
Yeah.
too.
And then
So
you
then with
put
your sauce, before you put your meatballs in there, you'll put another half can of beer into the sauce, so it doesn't get too thick and stick. And then you put your
I'll get it in a minute.
meatballs into the sauce and just bring them up to heat, usually 15 minutes or so, just until they get nice and hot and saturated, and then you have your delicious. Would you like one?
This is the second plate that we've had so far. Yeah, I was watching the weather and diligently eating because it's my duty today. That is perfect. Do you share your recipes?
I will, absolutely. Yeah.
Where can we go?
You can go to Facebook, Instagram, www.chefitup502.com.
That's good.
Message me there, and I'm more than happy to send you a recipe that if you see something you like.
You see, he's eating it up too.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite thing to barbecue?
Probably ribs.
Mm-hmm.
Barbecue some ribs. Do a dry rub on them, and you can use this seasoning mix as your dry rub.
Everybody
I usually don't
says,
like to put a lot of sauce on the ribs. I usually do a dry rub on them, smoke them.
And you go low and slow. I hear low and slow.
Yes, ma'am.
How long does it take you to do ribs?
Oh, just depends. You go low and slow for about 3 or 4 hours smoking, and then you temp them out and
Couple of beers back.
Throw a couple beers, garage beers, yeah.
Do you?
And then you'll kiss them on the grill to get that char.
Do you what do they call it? Boil them?
Parboil the ribs? I usually don't.
Yeah. See, yeah, I don't need
I
that.
need to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, slow and low, and then all that flavor stay in the meat.
So how are you celebrating barbecue month?
Grilling and drinking some garage beer with my friends. The garage lime is really good. It has a nice little extra citrusy note to it. But I like the light beer myself.
And you get that where? Anywhere?
Anywhere. Kroger, convenience stores. Yeah.
All right. And you're like a what do they call it? Like a personal chef.
Personal chef. Yeah, I do a lot of 3-course dinners. So it's like I bring the fine dining restaurant to your home. So you can just relax in your home and bring me in there, and it's like a Michelin star meal that you'll have from Chef It Up. It's
Five-star.
spare no expense.
So we have chefitup502.com. So if we were doing like a graduation party or a wedding, what's too big or what's too small?
Nothing's too big. I do the minimum is 2 people.
Oh, well,
Course
okay.
out menus for catering. I can do any number that you have as long as you can fit them into your space. I have 150 people coming up here at the end of the month or at the end of June. So yeah, it's going to be.
What's the most exciting thing you've ever done?
Everything I do is exciting.
Yeah, because you make it exciting.
Yeah, I make everything from scratch and everything. So like the way I make the menus is I just ask what you like and what you dislike, and then I kind of make a menu based on those things, and then we hash it out. And if you like this, you like that, you want me to tweak something, it's up to you. So we kind of make the menu together.
Okay? And you may not want to say what's the craziest thing.
The craziest thing would probably be like allergies, or somebody wanted a dessert without dairy. It's challenging.
But have you done like a crazy thing? Like, has somebody asked you to set up a dinner in the middle of a dairy farm?
I've had people ask me to do catering without power and without electric and no way to cook the food, so I really haven't been able to tackle that yet.
Yeah.
You got to have some kind of heat source.
Yeah, gotta cook it.
Yeah, you got to cook
Unless
it somehow.
you're just eating cheese.
Unless
I like cheese, though.
I can cook it ahead of time and bring it to you, but
Right.
it's
Then it's not. Then
it's not fresh. A lot of the things that I do are fresh and a la minute, and
Right.
I build the plate right there in front of you. So usually you go to a restaurant and the plate of food just appears. It's beautiful. You didn't
Yeah.
get to see how it happened.
Well,
And with me, I'm in your kitchen, in your dining room,
Yeah.
and you're right there watching everything. So you'll see.
this is
you'll see it all.
fabulous. This meatball, chefitup502.com, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks
can-
for having me.
Check him out, Personal Chef. You can check out the recipes there. And the barbecue that we just did, we can find there.
You can ask me for it and I'll send
Okay,
it to you.
so just
But I
email
don't
it.
have any recipes up on
Okay.
the website just yet. but-
There you go. Email him, ask him. When we come back after I finish this meatball here, we are going to talk to Crime Stoppers. They're here always taking care of our community. And then, I don't even know what time it is. If we get a chance, we're actually going to talk to Cindy. We are. We're going to talk to Cindy today. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Nichin Panom is Reek's cousin and says many people aren't even aware a war is going on in Sudan. But for their family, it's left them without the necessities to live.